that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Dial star 185 star 6 hash, follow the prompts and make instant school fees payments. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
Yes! Enjoy great value from Airtel with the all-new My Pakalast combo offers. We have customized especially for you the best deals on minutes, data and SMS with our 3-in-1 My Pakalast combo to give you the best value as you stay in touch with friends and family. To activate My Pakalast voice combo, dial star 100 star 2 star 1 hash to get started.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Daddy, surprise! Here is a pizza for you. Happy birthday to you. Daddy, you look not impressed.
My daughter, this is not meaningful to me. Alleluia Natural Drinks is my ideal gift today.
Alleluia Ginger Tea Drink and Alleluia Tamarind Drinks are the most perfect nutritious and healthy products that help everyone to boost their immune system to get complete relief of most sicknesses like joint pains, cough, diabetes, blood pressure, easy digestion and many more, and certified by UNBS. For orders, find us at Bifro House on Sir Apollo Kagwa Road, opposite MBI. Alleluia Natural Drinks, perfect for your health.
January 2021. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Very interesting things happen behind the scene. Just 4 days to the end of the month, if I'm very right, and then we'll usher in the month of love, which is February, because 14th there is Valentine's Day. Now something, before we went into a break, Priscilla gave me a biscuit, and this biscuit was given to her from Felix. So it reminds me of something very interesting that one time one of my female friends actually shared with me. It was Valentine and she had to give flowers.
Eh?
Yeah, she had to give flowers.
She had to give flowers?
Yes, she had to give flowers.
She had to give flowers, not you had to give flowers.
No, she's with, it's not about, yes, she had to give flowers to somebody she loves. So I escort her to go and purchase these flowers, and she tells me, Robert, I need artificial flowers. Like, but you have the money, why don't you buy a bucket of rose flowers? And she tells me, no. Sorry, she wanted natural, not artificial flowers. So I asked her why. She told me, when you buy artificial flowers, after you give them to someone, they can just wrap them and give them to somebody else. But these natural flowers wither, then they kind of fade. So this person cannot give them to another person. So as you approach the month of love, ensure that the gift you give to someone is not given to another person, but is kept.
Let me just say this. Do you know why people give? Do you know why people give?
Please educate us.
I would tell you that giving is most reasonably sensible when it comes from the heart. Now, the aftermath of what you have giveth is not in the confines of your restriction.
Exactly.
I give because I feel pointed in that direction. Actually, it's sharing. Now, there's nothing wrong with someone sharing what they have been given. I think it is selfish.
Which also brings in, these are the people who argue on the subject of tithe. No, you see, my tithe, I want to give tithe, but my pastor is living a lavish life, so I feel like he's okay. I don't need to give tithe to the church. I can give it to someone else or give it elsewhere. So yeah, Chidabo, your friend or you are one of those people. Tithe
but who
is
buys
tied
plastic
to
flowers for Valentine
the church.
also?
If the pastor is living lavish, those are
Have you
his.
seen them around the streets?
Who buys plastic flowers for Valentine?
You
have ever bought them, Robert?
But when I move around, Valentine is just around the corner.
Where do you move, Robert?
I've seen on the streets, in shops,
I've never seen them. That's the thing. I've never seen them.
The fact that the vendors in shops, they are there.
In Uganda, you don't have vendors on the street. So imagine all the way to Chizungu, you have vendors. So please understand.
And they're sold. So they're sold, and I see people purchase them. And they will be sold, and you see people purchase them.
Okay, at the end of the day, your point is?
When giving or when you get a gift,
give a plastic biscuit.
Okay. Felix should give a plastic.
Let me drink for this one.
Well, defensive football here. Anyway, let's move to our newsreel story this morning, and we want to look at life after elections for the next 5 years. How a political party is going to sail through these years. Will the strong parties still be strong? Looking at the just concluded elections, parliamentary and presidency, you'll see, or presidential, you'll see that there are some areas where some political parties were known over the years that these were their areas. They would always win them regardless of who they put forward, as long as it was that particular party. This time round, the reverse has been true. There are areas where some new parties had victory just in a by-election. In the just concluded election, another party swept completely, and they didn't even register any success. So we want to look at the next 5 years of political parties regarding the outcomes of these elections. And for us to better understand this, let's begin at understanding why we decided to hold a referendum and go into multi-party dispensation as a country. Felix.
Well, of course, speaking about multi-party dispensation, you will talk about the aftermath of the 1995 Constitution. The epitome of the same was to redescribe democracy in a cultural, customary, and given normative of the African concrete, and later on, of course, Ugandan reflection of the Pan-African attributions and all these.
Simba Wakati, help me with the pen. Help me with the pen. Just help me with the pen. I need to take notes of Felix's words. African what? African
Ignore Priscilla. So
my lecturer today. African
so
concrete.
what actually happened is that because there was a kind of a wave that was going just around Africa to cause redefinition of democracy in the sense of inclusion. Now, that's why we saw also Uganda jumping on the bandwagon to form inclusion, what you call political inclusion, which later on saw political parties being ushered into play. Now, the purpose of the same was to allow people associate with political belief. Not that there were no political parties before. Remember, there was the Kabaka Yeka, the UPC, the DP. But however, we had to cause what we call a retune, a fine-tune in the aftermath of a constitution that was presumably common, because it came into place remember the Odoki Commission and the CA and what. So the presumption was that this was a more common, binding, acceptable, and of course uniform legal regime versus the previous one. Remember the Obote constitutions that were quite not common. So the aftermath of a common constitution had to bring into place what we call political associations that would reflect the agitations and the conglomerations of the people of Uganda. Now, that's when we saw most of the political parties being formed, blah, blah. So the same was done, and Parliament passed a law to make it a statutory instrument which authors political parties. It meant that out of these associations, people would vie for political positions in the sense of enhancing and implementing the constitution. That's basically, in a nutshell, how we got to the point of. Of course, there have been attributions of international pressure, which you may not.
Actually, many just believe that we were not ready to go for political parties, but the international pressure was so much.
When were you going to be ready?
And you had to succumb to the donor pressure.
No. You see, who also pays the piper? If you want to take the person's money,
he who pays the piper.
We need a board for Priscilla.
Determines the tune. Okay.
So
you dance according to.
Definitely. So the whole thing started from there. Now, what we see today is simply growth of political party politics. That previously you didn't see much fiction. For example, today if you're looking at the likes of the United States of America, you do realize that you have the Republicans and the Democrats. Now, the kind of politicking they have, because they have grown.
There's other parties that have not managed to make it
even
through.
regardless.
The main ones, the major ones.
Yes. And do you know why? Yeah. Now, that is also another level of evidence of political party growth. That at some point, there only emerges the strong.
Yeah.
And there is no space for the weak.
Yeah.
Now, same thing, when you look at the previous elections, 2001, 2006, you've seen that they only comes out, they can only be two. You get the point. Now, that is also evidence of growth of issues of political parties, for that matter. Now, most recent, you see that...
at that point, Felix, sorry to interject, I want to ask you, when you talk about growth of political parties, for everything you can predict the foundation, are our political parties really having the right foundation? And will we see growth when many of them are more of based on a person?
But you see, I would actually like to respond before Felix comes in. We are talking about growth from 2005 to date. How many years are those? You're looking at 15 years of consideration of political parties. By the time that they're still in existence, that alone shows you growth. By the time you still have more people coming up and forming political parties, that shows you that there's still room for growth. Everyone wants to address a certain issue, agenda, or ideology for that matter. Even with the most recent elections that we have seen, it shows you that there's growth in political partyism because of, in comparison to 2016 and past elections before that, where you had the two forces being NRM and FDC. This time round, there's been a new political party on the block, which is National Unity Platform, and we can see how it has taken elections by a storm for 2021. That shows you that there's growth. Otherwise, if there was no room for growth, they wouldn't have been able to even come close to what they did pick up in their inaugural participation in elections.
Priscilla, Uganda has
still has.
Yes, I'm still driving.
First wait, and Felix does give his contribution.
Because if I am to do probably a rejoinder to what Priscilla is saying, and in relation to what Robert is saying, Robert did ask. You see, Robert, if your issue is about individuals and political parties, it may cause a simplicity of plight, but nevertheless, you will not detach any political party from individuals, and I can take you around the world from party to party. But the major, because this is the evidence. Now, previously we used to have political parties associated to customs, tribes, cultures, religion, and all this. Now, the shift of, because previously you had political parties leaning to the Catholic Roman Church.
You had Kabaka Yeka.
Exactly, you had the Kabaka.
Tribal.
Now, when you go to South Africa, you remember the ANC then had to have people from the party. Now, you do realize that that is good growth. That we are now galvanizing political stability or political party stability in terms of popularity. When probably like His Excellency the President of Uganda and the NRM, if you detach them, it's painful that there may be damage or what. But for example, you remember when Mbabazi left, people thought that party wouldn't go on. But because of the enormous structures formed away from tribe, from race, from religion, that's now the concrete of the same. When you go, for example, look at the NUP. NUP wasn't NUP 4 months ago. You know how it became NUP. You know how people power started. You know who are in people power. So, in fact, it is quite unfortunate that we have been hearing sentiments, people saying this is what, tribe and what. But that's not the case. Politics is simply about popularity. And if tomorrow you're popular, you will see how much attraction you will carry on you. It's about popularity. Now, there is no tribe that can be popular in a country where you have 54 different tribes. That's why you can't have, it is no longer sensible for you to trade tribal popularity. So, exactly. There is no also party that can be popular in terms of religion in a country where you have more than 2 or 3 religions. You get the point. Now that's why it ends up to individuals, because individuals can cause appeal. You saw the likes of
it's to their benefit that they appeal both tribalistically to as many tribes as possible and as many religions embracing as possible.
As any shades of society may present. If it's about beliefs and all, you've seen the present in the Anglican, the what, because
the witch doctors pray for him. No, but
I've never seen that. I'm just
Mama
saying.
Fina was the communications committee for the last campaign.
She was among the mobilizers, but because, like Felix said, a political party must be, it must be including everybody, all inclusive, or else it won't get the victory it needs. So that is why you would see that a head of state, as a chairman or the head of the NRM political party, must ensure that he meets all people, regardless of whatever faith, whatever color, because you need them in support. Actually, because they also do vote, and numbers matter in political parties. Uganda has 37 registered political parties, but in the just concluded election, I think we had about, most active could have been about 9 political parties there. So we are now
active, you mean what, Robert?
Those that were able to field registered candidates and moved a bit around, are known to Ugandans. There are some political parties.
The fact that you said moved a bit.
Moved a bit around, because there are political parties that you may not know. But you're saying political parties that, yes, political parties that have come out to shine. You field candidates, look at in parliament, have representation. So this is what we are looking at. Priscilla, 5 years down the road, looking at the future of political parties, what do you make of them?
Well, the aftermath of elections has surely shown you that people are calling the wave and things like that. Very interesting to note that, for me, it simply paints a picture that there are still people, normal Ugandans, that are interested in politics of this country. That's what it brings to light, first of all. And they will do what is necessary by means to be able to be vocal in terms of political direction for this country in the coming 5 years. Now, of course, you look at the big 5 or the big 3 that we may talk about. You're talking about NRM, talking about FDC, and now you do have this new party that has replaced the likes of DP and DPC, and that is NUP, National Unity Platform. So it brings to light that, first of all, perhaps the ideologies of the other 4 have failed to attract a certain group of Ugandans. And by that I mean the young people. If we are talking about young people, you can realize most of the lads or the people that are going to be representing us in the 11th Parliament, their age bracket is very interesting. You have more younger people in representation for the National Unity Platform than the seniors. That shows you that perhaps there is an era of young people who see things differently and want to be understood differently, plus also they have different ideologies from what has been the norm for, say, the last 35 years. Now that brings a challenge, but also an opportunity to the big 4, NRM, FDC, DP, and DPC, among others that we can mention, of the 37. It brings them, one, the challenge, because the question becomes, can they attract the ideologies of the young people into their present party structures? But also, the opportunity is that they can use parties like NUP as case studies to realize that, by the way, I might have, the Bible calls it, your arrow actually shoots farther than your hand, which means, it simply means that a young person can foresees the future, or their future is going to be different from what you, the parent's future, is currently. And so if you adapt them into your structures, policies, systems that you're doing, you might realize that you might have continuity of success as a political party, depending and varying from different political parties. I remember someone was asking about the Alliance for National Transformation, and the question was, to you, does Alliance for National Transformation attract young people? Because just even from the lineup of people that had been nominated in different positions, they were senior citizens of this country.
No, but Priscilla, I think if you may allow me to justify a bit, when you talk about formation and pomp of political parties and you attribute them to the young people, it causes a bit of dismay in issues of categorizing the relevance of representation. You and me know that. Okay, if you want to, if I may borrow your examples. For example, you're talking about the National Unity Platform. At the aftermath of this election, the National Unity Platform had less than a year, and here I stand to be corrected, to mobilize and come out with what it has come out today, with over 50 members of parliament, over another 30 local
mayoral,
or all those seats, LCs, less than a year. And I want also to take this, whoever is watching, probably from some of the parties that compete with the NUP, NRM, the FDC, you should be scared if they have 5 years.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, the reason why you see National Unity Platform different from the likes of A&T may not necessarily be about even age or what. It's about the message and how you put out the message. You know the demeanor, and we can briefly talk about demeanor of leaders, style of politicking. You talk about the likes of General Muntu, his style of politics. You remember how it used to clash with Vesige's style of politics, even when they were in FDC. Look at the style of politics of Kyagulanyi versus the style of politics probably of His Excellency, the President-elect. You see that there's a clash. Now, which are people more willing to receive? And that's when you bring in the aspect of generation. Does the generation of 2021, is it moved by gentleness? That's, oh, Chirabo is a gentleman, we should vote Chirabo the gentleman. Or is it moved by a go-getter? And those are things that now parties should start.
Felix, let me just
I just need to. Please, okay, I beg, just 1 minute. He's brought out his angle, but I'm looking at a young person. Let's look at people who have been born 95 onwards. They have no connection or relation whatsoever to what happened before 95 and the politics of this country and the wars that went on and who they had to overthrow the coup in order to get power and get the stability and peace and freedom that we experience today. They have no clue about that. So honestly, you do not expect them to have a buy-in into what, for example, the likes of NRM could be standing for. They keep referring to that time as, of course, being the foundation time of who they are today in their resistance as a movement. Then you get to look at this very same 95-year person, probably of 20 years plus today, and who is going to be most appealing to them, a senior or someone closer to their age group? Who's going to be more appealing?
It could be someone closer to their age group.
So they will go to the ballot paper and look for the younger people on the ballot paper. Let's take presidential for that matter. You had Robert Kyagulanyi, you like Swede Mayambara, you had the likes of John Katumba. Yeah.
Who's probably younger than Kyagulanyi?
Is younger, not probably, is younger than Kyagulanyi. And so from those ones that are closer to my age group in terms of ideology, think patterns, and what our dreams and visions could be for Uganda, they're closer to what I think I want to see my Uganda look like. So I will get from that lot of 3 and then consider of the 3 who has the most appealing ideology that speaks to what I want to see as a young person in my country for the next 5 years. And from then I will considerably go to the ballot paper and cast my vote. You understand? I will not go for the seniors. We're talking about 95 bonds plus, the millennials as you call them. They will not go to the ballot paper and consider Mugisha Muntu. they'll not consider General Tumukunde, they'll not consider Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, simply because they do not understand where that force of those people came from to where they are today. But there's someone closer to their journey in the ballot paper, and so they will be inclined to go with these people or follow these people than they will follow the seniors, even if the seniors are the makers of the politics that we have today.
Well, Priscilla, yes, there is usually people want to identify with people of their age groups, people they share the same visions and face similar challenges. That is very true. But I want to tell you the next 5 years will be shaped with how each of the political party will play their cards. A challenge that NUP has. Yes, it has been able to ride on the populism, Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu. How sustainable is this? If
Robert, you call it challenge and I call it an opportunity.
That's what I'm saying. Even me, I look at it as an opportunity.
If you do not focus on building grassroots structures, one of the things that have kept the NRM for a long time.
They are not the grassroots structures that brought this secretary to how many people in parliament.
No, first of all,
is the fact. I want to tell you, we've seen FDC at a particular time in this country. Where it came, this was a bushfire, he was a kingmaker, people left their parties and rushed to FDC. I want to tell you the story can neither differ with the National Unity Platform if they do not sit and strategize on how best they are going to recruit more cadres, because you have people that passed in elections and lost. How do you retain them as members of NUP?
So in short, continue appealing to the
continue
masses.
Appealing. You know, political parties survive on cadre recruitment, cadre detention, you know, and then that is how you're going to have the masses. You sell yourself out. But as long as you reach to a contentment, an area where you think, yes, you've achieved, at the end of the day, you're going to be like the UPCs, you're going to be like the Democratic parties that at one particular time said, okay, we've achieved it. So these 5 years are going to be shaped on how best each of these political parties improves on recruitment and detention and retention.
But also, don't you think they're going to be shaped by the individual performances at the end of the day? Because when you get into parliament, I think at some point political parties cease to exist. When you're in there, you're representing your different constituencies and the likes. And so you now become a representation of the people of Masaka, of Kazo and the likes. And that simply gives you an opportunity to actually put your best foot forward and serve the people that you represent with the decisions that you get to make over the policies, the laws and things that happen in parliamentary affairs. So that after 5 years, people will remember you not because you were of NUP, but because you as there's a Martin Sejemba.
Well, you could be good. We've had NRM members of parliament that have delivered but didn't survive the wave.
Yes, but they've delivered for 20 years.
Robert and
we've had even one.
But in 20 years, you have younger people that have come through in your constituency.
So at the end of the day, it is your party. How was it strategized? How was it positioned itself to remain relevant?
Shidabo.
People will take maybe the mango next time and not umbrella.
As we close it up, tamarind drink. But Shidabo, that's so saying that if you have delivered for the last 20 years, what more delivering do you want to give me? Consider that if I'm 20 plus in your constituency, me, I don't want roads. Me, I don't want. I just need a job. I just
hate that conversation.
You get it's a
Let's
very
wind it up by taking Hallelujah Jinga tea drink, Hallelujah turmeric drink. As you wait for Ugandans, we pray that life is here. Wait, what will you be taking? Umbrella, basi, or a mango by
in
then?
5 years time
In 5 years to come. We'll return with our press review. Keep it on UBC TV, and thank you so much for watching.
January 2021. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
Authentically symbolic and insightful.
We should work so hard to evacuate this power.
Behind the Headlines, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odong Thor.
was brought to you by Thank you for choosing MTN. Use MTN mobile money, bundles or other services to get Thank You points. The more you use, the more Thank You points you get. We look forward to many more years together. Thank you.
Daddy, surprise! Here is a pizza for you. Happy birthday to you.
Daddy, you look not impressed. My daughter, this is not meaningful to me. Hallelujah Natural Drinks is my ideal gift today.
Hallelujah Ginger Tea Drink and Hallelujah Tamarind Drinks are the most perfect nutritious and healthy products that help everyone to boost their immune system to get complete relief of most sicknesses like joint pains, cough, diabetes, blood pressure, easy digestion, and many more. And certified by UNBS. For orders, find us at Bifro House on Sir Apolokagwa Road, opposite Health.
January 2021. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Arise and shine. This is Good Morning Uganda. It is a day that you must have a positive mindset on whatever you're going to do, because mindset, one thing I learned is your mindset determines so much.
Yeah.
So if you have a positive mindset, no matter the challenge of the day, you know that you'll be able to make it. So start your day with a positive mindset, no matter what comes your way. Just know that you're more than a conqueror. It is time we look at some of the stories in the dailies, just away from the political talk where Lady Nally could not give me breathing space, but now we are now in the print media and we are reviewing some of these stories. I'm holding the new vision of today, that is the 27th day of January 2021. I am open to reconciliation. That is President Yoweri Museveni during yesterday's 35 years of NRM rule that were marked at State House Entebbe. Because of COVID-19, we now have scientific celebrations. Service providers are missing out. So this COVID thing, people will be getting. So he says he's ready for reconciliation. Then government to launch clinical trial for cure of COVID-19, and that is going to be today at around 10 a.m. His Excellency will be launching this. Still in the new vision, mayor elections. Uhuru wins Kampala. Oh, Salim Uhuru was able to win Kampala Central as FDC's Sebugwawo loses Rubaga. Uhuru survived what some believe is a wave, and he managed to take Kampala Central. They give you more of the winners. We have Ali Kasirie Mulyanyama. This is for Machindie. We have Elisa Mukasa. Then they give you Biekwaso, Kenneth Orono, and many others. There are Mao backtracks on his resignation. Remember, the President General of DP, Norbert Mao, had said if he fails to raise 15 members of Parliament, Priscilla, he was going to resign from his position as the President of Democratic Party. Then they give you so much past O-level geography. Today is inside, and also they give you still more of that. Still, in the new vision, government owes mask suppliers over 35 billion shillings. Those that supplied the masks that were given out by government. Then finance says it has no money to buy MPs' cars. Very interesting here.
It has no money to do what?
To buy members of parliament's vehicles. You
okay,
know,
it does not have 150 million per member of parliament.
Oh, no, Priscilla, it is, they are estimated at 300 million.
Okay, that's good.
Per member of parliament. And
that saves on our taxes.
If you look at the number of MPs we have, that could be at around 165 billion to be spent on members of parliament. If I have my
taxpayers' money that we're talking about.
How much have you eaten?
So we can downsize
how much
to
have you taken from
55 million.
55 million.
Yes, you can still go to Prado at that rate.
But you see what also annoys me
is you still get to your constituency.
We had Honorable Ken Luchamuzi. Do you remember Honorable Ken Luchamuzi? Even if members of parliament were being given a lot of this money to buy cars, some don't buy these cars, so they just use money for something else as long as you can reach parliament. So why give a whole 300 million to a person and he's at liberty? If I have my chikumi, I can still come to parliament.
Instead of contracting a service provider to just provide them with cars, and then you know that you have actually utilized that money, not just thrown it to the hands of people that are going to misuse it. Looking at the Daily Monitor this Wednesday morning, you get to look at the headline, How Parties Shared Municipal Seats. There is a breakdown there, a mayor and their constituency, and there's a breakdown. A full list is provided inside the Daily Monitor. So if you're interested, you get to buy yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor, 2,000 shillings, and you get to know about the details of that scramble for slots. NRM wins Fort Portal, Hoima and Elgon. You have National Unity Platform sweeping majority seats in Central, FDC taking Rukunjiri, Soroti seats, and Tebe Municipality race turns chaotic, where we had one person actually losing their life. In the pictorial for Daily Monitor, NRM at 35 years, you get to see Museveni preaching reconciliation at NRM Drive Fete. And in the picture, you do see former Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi. He's sharing a light moment with NRM Secretary General Kasude Lumumba and also Minister of Presidency Esther Mbayo. Elsewhere on the side, on page 7, you will read about a story, Sacrifice for People. Bobby tells NUP MPs in the meeting he had yesterday. And on page 5, you'll see why schools reopening is delaying. However, public varsity employees declare strike, and yet they're only having mostly candidates. And now the lizard is asking himself, COVID-19 had stolen their show. Not so very interesting. On the upper part of the Daily Monitor front page this morning gives you COVID statistics. We now have cases up to the tune of 39,261, recoveries at 14,051 people, and the death toll stands at 318. Elsewhere in news, Uganda on high alert as new COVID-19 strain hits Kenya, where they've registered a lot of deaths actually. UN removes cannabis from the list of most dangerous substances. And in homes, when you get to the middle of the Daily Monitor this Wednesday, you can get to find out how to avoid encroachers on your property.
In the New Vision, that is page 2, they bring you Know Your Member of Parliament, and today there is Hilary Chiyaga, the NUP candidate for the MP-elect, that is Mawo Kota North, that is in Impiji, who replaced Honorable Amelia. And so you get to know so much regarding him, a musician, now a politician. They also give you Robert Rukari Mwesigwa, that is NRM Bara City North Division, Moses Magogo, NRM Budiope East, Buyende district there. And just a reminder, I always emphasize and never get tired of reminding you that please, COVID is still around. Don't be part of these statistics. When we look at the death toll as of today, good news is registered no new death. We still remain at 318 deaths so far registered in Uganda. Total number of cases, that is 39,261. Recoveries, still we have 0. Then looking at the region, that is East Africa, death toll, Rwanda has 177, Kenya has 1,750 deaths registered so far due to COVID-19. South Sudan has 64 deaths registered, and countries most affected in the world, USA leading, India, Brazil, Russia and the UK. So please perfect those simple drills and take drinks, take foods that boost your body immunity, not forgetting exercising as well. Then you're good to go in the times of the pandemic. Yes, Priscilla, on the sports page.
In the daily guide, before I go to the sports page, we get to look at in other news, Edward Sekondi, who is the Vice President of Uganda, when he lost his Bukoto Central constituency, the next few days he was in hospital recovering from that loss. It was not an easy one for him, but he's promising to continue extending services bonuses to residents despite losing the Bukoto Central constituency seat in the recently concluded elections. 20 arrested over rigging local government polls, and that was also inclusive of bribery during elections for councillors and division mayors. But we get to look at the archives. Very interesting all the time. President Museveni interacting with a war veteran. There is a picture, him standing alongside Colonel Kasirye Gwanga, who is now passed on, rest in peace. And that was at the 15th anniversary for the National Resistance Army at Male Cricket Grounds. The year was 2001 on January 26th, Liberation Day. Today in history, Sir Apollo Kagwa Road is opened. The year was 1949. Also in history, we get to look at explosions kill 1,000 in Nigeria. The year was 2002. On this day, Uganda's first in 1890, first Protestant Bishop of Uganda, Alfred Robert Tucker of Britain, being the first Anglican Bishop of the Anglican Church to preside over Uganda. I then get to move on to the Daily Monitor Sports. You get to look at UPL struggles for global recognition. You look at CAF League rankings. There you have Morocco ranking at 190 points, and bottom of that ranking is Uganda with only 8 points. You get to look at Voice of Reason. One of the reasons why we're not ranked is that the turnover of players from one club to another is very high. Most of the players are not very consistent at their own clubs. Read about this conversation and get to understand how the ranking does affect or interpret how players are traded just here locally. You also get to look at top 10 in UEFA. You also get to look at Enterprise Feature, the untold story, how a fake Hassan Waswa invited himself for national team training and made the final cut. Continental lightweights, more of those conversations. And of course, Uganda Cranes and the fixture that they had yesterday. Read about it and how it turned out for them. All this in the Daily Monitor for this Wednesday.
Very interesting stories there. A fake what?
A fake Hassan Waswa inviting himself for roll call. He ended up making the final cut, representing the national.
All things are possible
if you believe.
in Uganda. Okay, in the New Vision Sports, we have MP's question FUFA funds. They want the funds to be evenly shared. That is the 10 billion there, and also now we see a minister trying to emphasize on how best give direction there. Then sports women special. So for the ladies there is so much regarding who are they focusing on this day, and please you can get to know more of that. But Priscilla, Uganda,
yes,
our performance the match yesterday, all we can say is
a better performance. We scored 2 goals at least. That's much better. So yeah, not all hope is lost. We may not have won the game, and we're still at the bottom of the table, Group C, where we are, and the team we played just went straight to the top of the table. That's Morocco. But it's life, it happens.
Well,
and
always end up, I don't know, for you people more so much in sports, this mathematics we do, if this team defeats the other, then we get these points. It's my prayer this time we can have America. We don't go back to that calculation.
How about you? You take these grievances up to Ruben Chivirango?
He's going to explain to me.
Yeah, wait for him and he'll explain to you why
we've made a couple of investments in football there, in soccer there, but at the end of the day we end up calculating and praying for teams to defeat others.
I like how people think that even when they've made a 1% investment, they expect 100% returns on investment. It's only in Uganda.
Well, let's return with traffic updates, where Priscilla will be giving you why it's safest for you to travel so that you get quicker to your destination. Madam Traffic Officer, every time you remind me of this traffic officer along some road here, that is Morago. There's a female traffic officer there, and sometimes instead of helping,
it just had to be a female traffic officer.
Absolutely. Good for a person.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Enjoy great value from Airtel with the all-new My Pakalast combo offers. We have customized especially for you the best deals on minutes, data and SMS with our 3-in-1 My Pakalast combo to give you the best value as you stay in touch with friends and family. To activate My Pakalast voice combo, dial *100 *2 *1 hash to get started.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Connect to the world for free on Ayoba. Chat with friends for free. Play games all day for free. Jam to Ziki for free. You can also send money through Ayoba. Absolutely no MBs needed. To download the app, visit www.mtn.co.ug/mymtn and select Ayoba.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Buyogera nyaffe Uganda ekkula lya Afrika tolemwa kumwenya olw'akamwenyumwenyu akajjudde abanywanyi. Embeera y'obudde yatukolako mukwano n'obutonde obutubeezaawo ne butusobozesa buli omu okubeerawo mu ngeri ye kuba ffenna tuli banjawulo ne mu ngeri gye tukwasaganyamu emirimu gyaffe. Naye ekitugatta ne tufuuka omuntu omu bwe buwoomye buva mu kyokunywa ekya Hallelujah Jingated Drink ne Hallelujah Tamarind Drink eddekende erikumala ennyonta ate nga wejjanjaba omubiri gwo. Ekyokunywa kino kye kitegeera emibiri gyaffe kuba kya butonde 100 ku 100. Woomerwa ekyokunywa kirimu omubisi gw'enkooge. Hallelujah Tamarind Drink ne Hallelujah Jingated Drink bikolebwa ba Hallelujah Reflexology Healthy Solution and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Weefunira ekyokunywa kya Hallelujah leero okuva ku maduuka wonna. Bakubire ku noti 393 24 15 66.
Shopping needs, come to Capital Shoppers. We have a variety of items like foods, garments, cosmetics, and all sorts of drinks. Enjoy your shopping experience at affordable prices in our fully stocked branches in the following areas: Ntinda Station Road, opposite Makere Business School along Portbell Road, Duster Street opposite Nakasero Market, and Garden City on Yusuf Lule Road. To all our customers and suppliers, we thank you for your continuous support. Stay safe, wash your hands, sanitize, and wear your mask always.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
With 10 minutes to the hour of 8 a.m., it's still a wonderful Wednesday, and we're hoping that the sun will equally be out as it was yesterday. I enjoyed some sun on my skin for the first time in a long while in the month of January. It used to be initially known as the hottest month in the first quarter of the year, but surprisingly for the last 3 years, it's been a rainy, chilly month of January. It is the 27th day of January, and this is Good Morning Uganda, taking you through the traffic updates. My name is Priscilla Naloga. We get to look at some red source zones this morning. Now we look at one of those areas that is very interesting to look at when it comes to roundabouts. It connects to more or less almost 3 roundabouts. We get to look at Binaisa Road that is around Mulago Road, Mulago Hospital, and this is the Mulago roundabout. At the Mulago roundabout this morning, there's a lot of traffic jam coming in from Kira Road. You get to see this morning that from Kira Road getting onto the roundabout, it is a lot of red zones, meaning the traffic is actually not moving, which is very, very interesting. Actually, this is we get to look yeah, the Mulago roundabout. You get to see that there's a lot of jam building up. Most of the vehicles that are coming in from Bukoto, from Tinda, from Chisasi use this route, and so it does build up on jam. But also at this roundabout, you do have a lot of potholes, and there's a bit of construction that is going on here to just clear those potholes. It does contribute to the jam. Even on Binaisa Road, on the road coming onto the roundabout, there's equally potholes that do affect the speediness at which people do drive, because they have to cater to their cars if they're going to have them take them throughout the year without potholes actually bring in mechanical issues. You also get to look at another roundabout that is Old Mulago roundabout, which does bring in traffic from Old Mulago, and most people are using Old Mulago as a back route away from Karere and Gayaza Road, trying to escape the jam on Gayaza Road. So they will opt for the other routes, back routes, to be able to come back here to Old Mulago roundabout and be able to get to the either side of the city that they want to get to. The other roundabout is the Karere roundabout this morning, surprisingly, because I think everyone is using the back routes, the feeder roads, as the escape routes for avoiding the jam. It gives a free way for Gayaza Road to have no jam. From Gayaza Road right into Nkizi, getting into Wandegea, there's actually no jam. Now we get back to Kira Road, where we get to see another feeder road that people usually use. That is Mawanda Road. About 5 minutes back, Mawanda Road was heavily jammed up, but this morning it actually seems to be the jam is lightening up, especially on the vehicles that are trying to join the other side of Kalere, but also vehicles that are coming through and wanting to join Kira Road only at the intersection of off Mawanda Road, trying to get away from the jam on the main road, using that feeder road to probably connect into the likes of Bukoto. That is where you are using those options to be able to avoid the jam on the main route. Looking at the main route, surprisingly, Kira Road is also very clean, and there's no traffic around KFC Bukoto. There's no traffic around the traffic lights at Kampala Parent School. Also at the back route of Kamota, there is barely any traffic. And guess where the traffic is? In the back routes that people are trying to use. Now, I know most people would use Mawanda Road, then it connects them to Chisinjiri Road, connect to Kampala Northern Bypass, and then maybe they can come through Kampala International School and be able to connect into the likes of Bukoto, or even head to Chisasi, Chanja, using those back routes. And so because those are the back routes and the many feeder roads that feed off Bukoto Chisasi Road, this is why you do have the jam build up, not away from the main roads, but in actually the middle of this particular road is where you're having the jam. And also in consideration that majorly these regions are residential areas. People are coming away from their homes and starting to make their way to their offices or their businesses that they have to be at in the next few hours. So that is why you're seeing a lot of red and orange zones here, because of the intersection of the many feeder roads. If I can just take count, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 feeder roads on the left side, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the right side. So you do understand how heavily or densely populated this place is in terms of residential. It also gives you an interpretation of people in this area do have vehicles. So probably the wife has a vehicle, the husband has a vehicle, the children have a vehicle that takes them to school, bringing up this jam. Another route that people use to just get away from the madness is the route that comes out from Cayenne, joining Bukoto and Tinder Road. It also is a back route, or what the Baganda called panya. It's a panya from the madness that usually builds up on Bukoto Ntinda Road. But surprisingly, if we get to look at Bukoto Ntinda Road, main road, only in a few spots where you do have feeder roads. You do have the valley here after UMC Victoria Hospital that does contribute to a lot of jam because of the feeder roads that do intercept with the valley, and that will contribute to the way this jam is. And again, now the red zone is actually increasing in the valley here. That simply shows you that there's so many vehicles that are trying to get onto the Bukoto Ntinda Road. Now we get to look at the back route, which is mostly Mukalazi Road, which people will use from Bukoto, join Mukalazi Road and be able to continue to Kampala Northern Bypass, and maybe they'll end up in Chisota Zone, Chisasi. You get to look at them ending up in Chanja. This morning in Chisasi, Bukoto Chisasi Road, at the top of it as it connects into the deep of Chisasi, you get to see that there's also a little bit of jam building up there around La Jola Gardens. There's a bit of jam building up. Another red zone that we are seeing on this other side is the trading center for Chisasi. You get to see around the Sankara supermarket, there's a bit of a slow jam moving about there, and because it's a trading center and the road is actually too narrow for a trading center, it does explain why you do have a lot of jam. Coming back to Ntinda Chisasi Road, coming back to the heart of Ntinda this morning around the shopping center, as you can see, just a few red zones, and these are surely manageable. If you do have the patience of time, you can make it past there. We get to look at away from Ntinda, Old Kira Road continues to Chiwatule Road, which will lead you then to Sinbel Supermarket, pouring you into the likes of Nalia. As you can see, Chiwatule Road is also a red zone majorly this morning. A lot of traffic coming in from Najera, and that simply also reminds you that Najera has become heavily congested. There are so many apartments, so many young corporates who have bought themselves the very nice cars, mostly Subarus, by the way. Yeah, so they're trying to get to their corporate offices, and that does depicts from the red lines that we are seeing of Najera coming back into Chiwatule Road and connecting to Ntinda. And then you get to see at the back road that joins Nalia around Sinbel, this is a very sharp corner. It actually has two sharp corners, and also the fact that this is contributing to the feeder road traffic that comes in from the likes of Chambogo. People in Chambogo will use this route, connect to Chiwatule Road and get into Najera. It also contributes to the red zones that you're seeing around Sinbel. Getting into Nalia, most of it seems to be clear, but one Stephen is telling me that I must hand over to Robert Chiramo as he takes us through Good Morning Uganda agenda after the break that we're going for. It's still Good Morning Uganda, and we're trusting that you're enjoying your coffee, your latte, and you also must get yourself hallelujah ginger tea drink or tamarind. You can have that in your car as you move to your next destination.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Enjoy great value from Airtel with the all-new My Pakalast combo offers. We have customized especially for you the best deals on minutes, data, and SMS with our 3-in-1 My Pakalast combo to give you the best value as you stay in touch with friends and family. To activate My Pakalast voice combo, dial *100*2*1# to get started.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Buyogera nyaffe Uganda ku Radio Africa tolemwa kumwenya olw'akamwenyumwenyu akajjudde abanywanyi. Embeera y'obudde yatukolako mukwano n'obutonde obutubeezaawo ne butusobozesa buli omu okubeerawo mu ngeri ye kuba ffenna tuli banjawulo ne mu ngeri gye tukwasaganyamu emirimu gyaffe. Naye ekitugatta ne tufuuka omuntu omu bwe buwoomye buva mu kyokunywa ekya Hallelujah Jingatee Drink ne Hallelujah Tamarind Drink eddekende erikumala ennyonta ate nga wejjanjaba omubiri gwo. Ekyokunywa kino kye kitegeera emibiri gyaffe kuba kya butonde 100 ku 100. Woomerwa ekyokunywa kirimu omubisi gw'enkooge. Hallelujah Tamarind Drink ne Hallelujah Jingatee Drink bikolebwa ba Hallelujah Reflexology Healthy Solution and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Weefunira ekyokunywa kya Hallelujah leero okuva ku maduuka wonna. Bakubire ku noti 393 24 15 66.
Shopping needs, come to Capital Shoppers. We have a variety of items like foods, garments, cosmetics, and all sorts of drinks. Enjoy your shopping experience at affordable prices in our fully stocked branches in the following areas: in Tinder Station Road, opposite Makere Business School along Portbell Road, Duster Street opposite Nakasero Market, and Garden City on Yusuf Lule Road. To all our customers and suppliers, we thank you for your continuous support. Stay safe, wash your hands, sanitize, and wear your mask always.
Connect to the world for free on Ayoba. Chat with friends for free. Play games all day for free. Jam to Ziki for free. You can also send money through Ayoba. Absolutely no MBs needed. To download the app, visit www.mtn.co.ug/mymtn and select Ayoba.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Kickstart your week with the best entertainment.
The only one I give my body, but
We bring you the latest in shopping.
And unlike what the newspapers were reporting, I wasn't doing cocaine, narcotics. No, it was a prescription drug. And I was taking this prescription drug because I had an injury of my back.
Tech and gadget news and your countdown. Join us Monday to Thursday. Jam 101. We set the pair.
Hello, my name is Dr. Henry Dungu, a consultant in hematology and oncology. Health promotion and disease prevention programs focus on keeping people healthy. They aim to engage and empower individuals and communities to choose healthy behaviors and make changes that reduce the risk of developing chronic diseases and other illnesses. Join me on New Health Chat every Thursday at 9 p.m. on UBC TV, sponsored by National Medical Stores, who are mandated to procure, store and distribute essential medicines and medical supplies to all public health facilities in the country.
If you want to benefit from the cabbage, you can decide to go for the dry season planting or the wet season planting. Those are key things to look at. But the other bit is about the yield and the maturity period.
Agriculture has been for years forming the backbone of Uganda's economy, contributing approximately 37% of local growth, with 80% of the population practicing agriculture.
Green tea is different from black tea. Green tea
does not go through the fermentation process of the factory, meaning that it has retained all the medicinal values in it.
This is a good leaf for plucking.
Join us every Wednesday as we showcase comprehended and well-researched episodes on agriculture, on the new innovations, planting, harvesting, modern technologies, and more you would like to know in the farming field.
The farmers, they no longer bring more of comb honey. So after extracting the honey from the frames, then they are removed and placed back in a chupa.
Farm Matters, a program where all your farming needs are addressed.
Solution to farmers for what they need. What farmers need is income in their pocket, isn't it? It's about money in the pocket.
This program has helped me to improve farming skills. Keep watching Farm Matters at UBC.
Buyogera nyaffe Uganda ku Radio Africa. Tolemwa kumwenya. Olwakamwenyumwenyu akajjudde abanywanyi. Embeera y'obudde yatukolako mukwano n'obutonde obutubeezaawo ne butusobozesa buli omu okubeerawo mu ngeri ye kuba ffenna tuli banjawulo ne mu ngeri gye tukwasaganyamu emirimu gyaffe. Naye ekitugatta ne tufuuka omuntu omu bwe buwoomi obuva mu kyokunywa ekyaleeruya Jingatted Drink n'aleeruya Tamarin Drink eddekende erikumala ennyonta ate nga wejjanjaba omubiri gwo. Ekyokunywa kino kye kitegeera emibiri gyaffe kuba kya butonde 100 ku 100. Woomerwa ekyokunywa kirimu omubisi gw'enkooge. Alleluya Tamarin Drink n'Alleluya Jingatted Drink bikolebwa ba Alleluya Reflexology Healthy Solution and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Weefunira ekyokunywa kya Alleluya leero okuva ku maduuka wonna. Bakubire ku noti 393 24 15 66.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Where there's an economy, where there is society, there's definitely need for some sort of a transactable item to be able to aid the development that will come through by the economy, for the economy, with the economy and infrastructure of any community, any district and any country for that matter. Of course, we get to look at Uganda and the aftermath of elections. So elections are pretty much getting done and dusted. Life has to continue. And we also get to look at other things concerning Uganda. And as far as Uganda is concerned, you do have the different facets that do influence how things move in Uganda. One of them is the financial sector, which we get to look at this morning on Good Morning Uganda agenda. My name is Priscilla Naloga, and this morning I am joined by Julie Akello. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning to you.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Welcome back from elections.
Thank you. It has been great.
Yeah.
And the results came out, and we have to accept the results.
The smile shows that maybe some of your favored candidates went through.
I mean, some did, some didn't, but for the next 5 years, I mean, we have to accept the results.
Okay. Speaking about acceptancy, have you noted that Ugandans, day by day, they actually do not have an easy way of accepting that they have lost? We have so many people going back to court and wanting to have a recount of voting.
I mean, this is a routine. I mean, we have seen it over the years from the time elections began. And so we know that many people maybe are disgruntled. Maybe they have reasons, maybe they don't. They have evidences. So for that case, we would leave it to the courts to decide.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, where there's elections, where there's democracy, there's something that has to push the driving forces into action, which is money and finances for that matter. Looking at the past 5 years, from the elections of 2016 to date, and how has the financial arm of this country been in your reflections personally?
Now, what we have noted is, or personally have noted, is that many times we have noted an increment in the budget.
Okay.
You know, every time government is budgeting, there is an increment in the budget figures. Whether the budget figures translate into service delivery is another matter. So it would take you to analyze it on a case-by-case basis. based on the financial years that come. Okay. That is really a long story.
All right. Julie Akello is a policy specialist, and she works with a civil society budget advocacy group, and they're here to talk to you and also address the things that she has highlighted in her personal remarks, and that is budgeting. Tell us about a civil society budget advocacy group. What do you do? Why was it created? And so far, your objectives, where do they stand?
Now, civil society budget advocacy group, usually shortened as CSBAG, okay, because out there many people know us as CSBAG, is an organization, an NGO, that basically wishes or mobilizes citizens to be able to be part of the budgeting process. Because we think that when government is budgeting, it is budgeting for the citizens. And so the intention for the organization is mainly how do we see that communities or citizens get involved into the process? Because we know government has a budgeting process, and so what we usually do is we enlighten them on at what point is the budget process ongoing, at what point can they come in, at what point can they advocate for their issues to be included in the budget.
We're referring to citizens?
Yes, mainly citizens. And so that is our core work. How do we link government?
CSBAG, your focus is on helping citizens participate in budgetary?
Basically, that is it. Yeah, because our main issue is mobilizing them to be able to be part of the budget process.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What are your objectives, and why do you do this? What, if I may actually just reflect it back, to what point did you actually realize that citizens must be part of the budgetary process in order to bring to light the objectives that later you came up with?
When you look at the budget in totality, the budget is supposed to address the needs of the citizens. Okay. Even when you look at the different, previously we talk about sectors, but now in the NDP3, which started this financial year, we are going to talk about programs for the next 5 years. So getting back to the sectors, because I know many people know about sectors, when you look at the previous sectors that we had, in every portion of the sector, the focus is on the citizen. And now there is no way government can be budgeting without having the citizens' interest in mind, or having ideas or interests or priorities being solicited from the citizens. So for us, it's about participation. It's about government should consult the citizen so that they are able to take up the citizens' priorities into the budget.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the citizens that you have referred to in your existence as an NGO. How has that process been? How do you include, at what stage do you include the citizens in participation of budgetary?
Throughout the budget process.
Yeah.
Because what happens is when the budget cycle begins, of course, government, Minister of Finance has a budget process. Now, the specific areas where citizens really participate in is basically when there are consultations right from the village level, when they begin planning, because you cannot plan
conducted by CSBAG.
Not really by CSBAG, by government.
Yes.
So we take advantage of those opportunities that there are spaces for us to participate in. Now, when planning begins at the village level, we know that even at that level, the planning is for the citizens. So we encourage them to be part of that planning process. Then when these budgets are submitted at the sub-county level for the places where we have worked in, number of districts, we support or give capacity to the citizens to be able to present their issues to the sub-county officials. And so many times what happens is we have noted that the citizens' testimony or citizens' priorities are usually included in the sub-county budgets. Why? Because the citizens are spread out there. Maybe the sub-county leaders or duty bearers are fewer. The citizens really know what is on ground in terms of service delivery. So what happens is they usually present these priorities, service delivery priorities, to the sub-county officials. Of course, in a manner which is understandable to to the sub-county officials, how they would include it in the budget. Okay. Now, when the sub-county has completed their part, they send their budgets to the districts, and then, of course, the districts will have to incorporate what the sub-counties have presented to them. But even at that level, when there are sub-county budget conferences, when there are district budget conferences, citizens are actually invited to come and make an input. So after we have done that at the district level with our presentations at the budget conferences, the different district budget conferences, we still have a chance to have our issues presented to Parliament. Of course, then there we have to look at the national processes now when these budgets come to Parliament. And so many times we have written proposals giving the issues that come from the grassroots. Of course, they feed into what we have at the national level, and then we share it with Parliament. Then Parliament has to look into what we think are priorities, and then based on the analysis and based on the recommendations we give them, then they take it up into the main budget.
Jen Okello joining me here on Good Morning Uganda as we get to discuss the budget, coming from Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, and she's a policy specialist. One of the emphases that you have made is the fact that there's citizen inclusion into budget affairs of the country, right from grassroots all the way to national framework. Now, speaking of which, I want to understand, how is it that you get to actually convince the citizen to be a part of this process? Because, you know, people's mindsets are different, and adaptability to understanding why they must be a part of this process, knowing or not knowing that it's for their own good. How, as you, an NGO, managed to convince the Ugandans to be a part of this process? Now, and why must they even be part of the process?
Now, it takes a mindset change of sorts. Because what happens is, I mean, you just have to let them know that you are paying taxes, and out of the taxes you're paying, you need to get a return. What is so intriguing is many times when we mobilize the citizens and capacitate them or empower them, we tell them that even the little sugar that you're buying has a tax attached to it. Even the little bar of soap that you're buying, or piece of soap, it has tax attached to it. Even airtime
that they buy, even the hair that they buy.
Now, I mean, that is, I mean, at a certain level of understanding, but at the grassroots, you give them those examples that are really, really, you know, familiar to them. So it's about conscientizing them to know that, oh, so I am paying tax, and so I have to have a return to it. It is from that point that you start changing their minds and ensuring that, I mean, I think I have a role in this, you know. So after we have done that, many of them may not have a lot of confidence, actually, to come up and say, let me participate. But when they are in a group, they encourage each other. Sometimes they even fear to present whatever they find that is wrong in a service delivery point. Why? Because they have not engaged with duty bearers, whether at sub-county level, whether at district level. But when they're in a group, they encourage each other, then they realize that, oh, I'm even learning more, and so I even have a role in terms of my service delivery point. I mean, like a health center. If there is no midwife, or maybe there's only one midwife, they have the consciousness to know that this is a small health center supporting so many people, and yet we need 1 or 2 or 3 midwives to be helping the ladies, or even if it's not midwives, but medical staff be helping the people. But then government is supposed actually to be, you know, recruiting such a midwife, so that we might not, you know, we may not have so many deaths happening. If a midwife is tired and they are receiving so many mothers, then we know there are going to be many deaths. You know, it's a matter of changing their minds to what will benefit them, so that they are able to really participate. But it's a process. It's a long process.
It's a long process.
Yeah.
Julia Kello, the National Budget Framework is out for the financial year 2020-2021. And what is your comment in reference to the framework that has been presented?
We want to thank government for, this is something which has happened routinely. We usually, Minister of Finance usually presents, the Minister of Finance usually presents the National Budget Framework to Parliament by December. This time it was in December 2020. And we want to applaud government for that, because the Public Finance Financial Management Act actually guides that it really has to happen. But my comment to that is we want to thank government, because this time this NBFP responds or is within or is consistent with the National Development Plan 3, because we know that the National Development Plan has transformed from sector-based budgeting to program-based budgeting. And so when you look at the NBFP, it has been prepared along those lines. And we really want to thank government for that, because in this financial year, which we are in 2020-21, in which the NDP3 should have started to be implemented in, was not really aligned. It was still in the sector mode. And so analyzing the performance becomes a challenge, because if the NDP3 is under program and then the budget is under sector, then there is a challenge there. But for this particular time, we see the program element is coming out, and we think analyzing it and evaluating it will be easy.
Well, National Development Plan, yes, you've talked about its translation into programs. Can you highlight for us the key programs that have actually been translated then to the National Budget Framework that has come out? The number of them, there are 18, and maybe most likely I might not remember them off-head, but we have human capital development, we have development plan investment, we have private sector development, we have private sector transformation, we have agro-industrialization, we have, and many others. Of course, they add up to 18 of them. Yeah. Okay, all right. And now for the National Budget Framework, we have been badly hit by COVID-19 as a country, Uganda, and also with the recent elections, it has affected the way things have been done. Let's look at how the process has been, and how has COVID-19 affected the framework that we now have?
Now, COVID-19, when we just started hearing about it, we thought it was a far-off thing. You know, of course, for some time we didn't have a lot of...
It started as for the Chinese, then it became for the Americans, then it became for the Italians.
And apparently, not only within Uganda, but I think the African continent really took their time to prepare for it. Now, when it hit like a bomb. And knowing that our economy could not, wasn't that prepared, when it arrived, we started panicking. Of course, it had its effects. People lost their businesses, people lost jobs. There were a number of, even the poverty line got down, because for me, that's what I think, because people could not earn income. Household incomes went down, economic growth even went down nationally. And so it was really, really a big hit for us. And this really made government have a catch-up plan at that point, because in the health sector, all health units really needed support. And at that point, I don't think government was prepared about the magnitude. Of course, we knew it was coming, but we did not know the magnitude of it. So we saw, of course, government going to borrow in order to be able to, to support, because all these finances were not in. Remember, when businesses went low, domestic revenue also went low, because we usually get it from the taxes. Businesses went low, the revenue went low, everything was, going low. So government had an alternative. They went, borrowed. Of course, this was mainly to respond to those COVID effects. Now, when we did that borrowing, of course it was for response to COVID, but you notice that responding to COVID is not a developmental, aspect. It is for consumption. Okay, so you have borrowed to address COVID, but remember you're supposed to take it back with interest, moreover, but you have not invested. So that is the snag that we might have in terms of paying back, these loans that we borrowed during that time, and of course knowing that we really must pay it within the time they have given us. And so for me, the borrowing may have not been a problem because we were desperate, but in terms of how do we pay it back, that is where our challenge is, in terms of how do we reorganize ourselves to pay back.
Obviously, you have highlighted that Uganda's public debt is now on a big rise because of the inclusion of COVID-19, and we're basically wondering, as a budget policy specialist, what is our debt level right now, and is it sustainable in your view as a specialist?
Uganda's debt, even before COVID, has been rising steadily, slowly, but and civil society, we have been raising this to government. Now, just in terms of maybe figures, by around June 2019, our figure was about 46 trillion. And until October last year, that was about 1 year and maybe 3 months or so. It hit about 63 trillion shillings. Of course, we know that that was about the period when COVID came in and government really, borrowed. Now, the challenge with this is, like I highlighted earlier, we are borrowing, but what are we using the money for? And of course, compounding it with the previous debt that we had, because previously around financial year 2017-18, our debt to GDP was about 34%. This year we are expecting it to be at about 43% by end of this financial year. And by end of next financial year, 2021-22, it is expected to go high to about 47%, but the threshold is at 50%. Now, I wouldn't wish to so much dwell on that, because the indicator of debt to GDP might not be something that you can go by so much, because we have seen evidence of countries like the USA and many other developed countries that have, their debt has gone even beyond the threshold. But it is about how do they organize themselves to pay. Now, the Ugandan debt is unique in such a way that you find that it is increasing, and then interest payments are also increasing, because when you look at the budget, the national the NBFP right now is talking of about 10% of the budget to be paid back in interest payments. Last year it was about 11%, and those are I would say the high items, the items on the budget that take a lot of interest. But you know that interest payments, we pay it on domestic debt, on domestic revenue. Now that domestic revenue is the revenue that we think government should be using to provide service delivery. Now, if part of that money is paid in interest, that means it reduces our bracket of, where government can pick funds to provide the services. And this has been on an increasing trend. Now, when you talk about interest payments to the revenue that we already have little revenue that we are collecting, and you look at interest payments to revenue, I think in financial year 2019-20, the percentage was about 13%. I think 13. Okay. This financial year, it is expected to be about 15%. Wow. Next financial year, it's going to actually, I think, 23. It's projected. And so, to the 20s. When you look at those indicators, and apparently in the next budget, we are expecting our domestic revenue to even come down, you know. And so when domestic revenue comes down, whatever we expect to collect, that gives a bigger gap for us to borrow. Yes. Okay? Yeah. Because then you are looking at a deficit, and so there is that gap that you are supposed to fill up in terms of being able to provide services. But also when you look at the Auditor General's report of 2018, he indicates that our I think interest payments revenues has gone to 17%, and yet the threshold is 15%. And so we are increasingly eating up into our domestic revenue. And so the sustainability, if you look at it along those lines, you can, as a layperson, anyone can look and say, I think we are not going right to some extent. And so this means that government needs to have some measures. The debt to GDP indicator, for me, it is something that, okay, government will tell you, oh, our debt is sustainable, which is correct when you go by that indicator. But how far can we go borrowing? How much are we able to return that money? Okay. And yet many times when we borrow, we are talking about infrastructure development, we are talking about investing in big projects, but we also note that our public investment management practices are not all that good. Okay. And so a lot of money that is borrowed somehow disappears. Of course, when you look at a report like the World Bank report, which has always been a benchmark of 2016, $1 does not return. When you look at the investment that is put in, it is only 0.7% that returns. So we are losing even more in terms of managing our investments.
Julie, you have mentioned the local governments. You've also mentioned the fact that there's service delivery that has to be considered, because the point of all this budgeting is to ensure that to the last consumer there is proper service delivery of the need for particular regions of Uganda. Let's talk about local governments. They have more or less in recent times come to the forefront of actually delivering services to the people of Uganda. Can you give us paint for us a picture of a reflection of how the trends have been in terms of government funding this?
Government funding to local governments, I'm afraid, has been coming down. Okay. Getting back to figures of like about 2 years ago, you note that their percentage is about was about 9.5, I think, in 2019, 2020. This year it has come down to 9.1%.
And in your analysis, what is bringing this rate down?
It's not too easy to indicate what, but we know that there are some sectors. Of course, when you look at the budget in totality, you realize that there are those sectors that government looks at as priority. Okay, and so when the budgeting comes through, it is those sectors that really take up that those slots. Now, in next financial year, we are expecting it to come down to 8%. But what happens is once money has been allocated to local governments, we note that some percentage of it actually remains at the center here. And whatever goes to local governments, much of it is also conditioned. So there is no leverage or flexibility for them to be able to change a budget to here or there, maybe to address a quick need, because government will send them money and they will say this money is going for this and that and that.
And for the financial year that we are looking at, 2020-21, as you have analyzed it, do you see any reflections that show that maybe there's some funding that is going to be poured into local government?
Now, with the projection that the NBFP is bringing, it's actually reducing. And of course, when it reduces, you know that service delivery will be stifled, it will be affected. Because, I mean, our population is growing. Look at the schools, look at the health centers, look at the roads that we have even within the villages. Already, there are cases of our service delivery is not, you know, is not up to date. And so if the funding is reducing, that means reduced service delivery. And yet we already have challenges there. So the quality of service delivery that we expect in the local governments might not be, you know, might not come out through.
Let's look at agriculture. Agriculture is majorly the backbone of Uganda, right from the 80s, the 70s, up to date. And the fact that it's the backbone of Uganda, it also means that they're taxing it heavily. And yet now it seems to have narrowed in comparison to the past decade, if you ask me. But looking at the financial year, the budget framework that is out 2020-2021, in the budget, do you think that the 3.3% that has been allocated to agriculture is sufficient enough?
Now, from times back, like you said, I mean, that is our backbone. But the 3.3% is also up for interrogation. One, we know that during COVID, let me draw you back to the time when COVID came in, of course we still have it. Of all the other sectors, agriculture was very resilient. And I think it was partly maybe because the president also allowed food production and distribution to, you know, to be that free. I mean, people cannot stay without eating, which we really appreciate. Now, it became very resilient at that point. And it was our hope as CS BAG that maybe more funds would be, you know, put into agriculture. Of course, agriculture now is under the agro-industrialization program. Most of these sectors were put into different programs. So a program is merged up under different, is made up of
sector is sectors. Merged up under a program for development plan.
So what happens to agriculture is we thought it would, you know, attract a greater percentage of funding. And our thinking was, since digitalization, COVID has taught us that digitalization or digital business is something to go by, and e-commerce basically. And our hope was government would put in more money, you know, in there to do e-learning and
to
trade,
invest from, harvest from the e-commerce.
But unfortunately, that is what government is planning to do for it, the 3.3%. We think that is not enough. However,
what can government do then to increase productivity, even if the budget stays at that?
E-learning. Because most of our, I mean, agricultural producers they might want to produce, but they are not linked to markets. Today, linking someone to a market doesn't require someone leaving this place and going the other side. You know, the digital, you know, arena is here, but you find most of the people who engage in agriculture are the women. And then you realize that they might not have all this knowledge of the digital, whatever it is, they might not have it. But knowing that agric is our backbone with that amount of money, previously there has been a discussion on, even when you give agriculture a lot of money, they still take back money to the consolidated fund. What is happening? Now, that is a discussion that needs to be interrogated. Are they still taking back money to the consolidating fund, and why? But I'm happy to say that at least within the 3.3%, they have identified completing what is this? The irrigation schemes that they had started. They are also looking at recruiting extension services, although that is limited to about 50 districts. They are also looking at construction of processing facilities, which is a good thing. But when you look at how much that is going to bring into production, those are long-term plans. Those are long-term plans. And so for us, we would have loved that maybe tax to agriculture could be, you know, removed or reduced inputs should be given to farmers or subsidized prices or even taken away. When you look at the issue of operations wealth creation, that is giving, you know, that is distributing inputs, agricultural inputs. Many times we have been to those districts and communities, one thing comes out. Inputs are brought at a time when we don't need it. Actually, last month we were holding a district dialogue in one of the districts, and the community was asking the district to explain why is it that cassava stems are brought to the district and they keep rotting.
And the granaries and things like that.
It's about the timing. And so we think those are quick things that government can do. Take it in time so that people can really use the input.
Julie, one other thing as we round up that has come out from the year 2020, and also I suppose that in the framework it should be looking better than it did in the past budget framework, is the fact that health is also a very important sector to focus on for Uganda. COVID-19 has brought it into light that our health sector is doing badly, and it's in need, dire need, especially given that COVID-19 is here for a long while as far as Uganda is concerned. Let's reflect on that in terms of the budget percentages that were given, and are you happy with the percentages, or what should have been your expectation from the framework?
Apparently, social services, within which health is, education is under human capital program. And of course, under that program, there are several other sectors, like I said earlier, merged up together. Now, human capital development will take about, I think, 15% of the budget, which is good. But it requires interrogating deeply where that money is going. Because, yes, much as we can talk about 15%, but how much of it is going into service delivery? Because there are also expenses like paying salaries and all that, which many times takes also a bigger percentage. But getting back to what we have had recently in terms of monitoring our service delivery points, and specifically the health centers that we have, you know, some of them are really in a sorry state, especially when you talk about COVID response. Some of them are in a sorry state, and for me, I would call upon government maybe to have done a good analysis of what those health sectors are lacking, and then maybe they consider it. We know that the health sector actually received lots of funding, from sympathy, and not even sympathy alone previously in terms of COVID, but
Good Samaritans, if you can call them.
It was really a need. But even within, basing on whatever came in, you still find some of the health centers are not really COVID ready. They are not ready.
Well, and I've had a shared experience of those whereby you actually get there and just even the basics are not available to the people that are supposed to be giving you a health service. I'm talking about the health workers themselves, the health center 3s most especially in different regions.
So that cuts across those areas where we are working in, and the feedback is the same. You go to northern, it's the same. You go to western, it's the same. You go to eastern, it's the same. And so depending on how government prioritizes things, that is how you find it in the budget.
So moving forward, you have reflected on the framework, and CS-BAG has made its observations. In conclusion, what are your observations and what are your remarks moving forward?
Our observations are documented. We share usually we do this analysis and then share our observations with Parliament, because Parliament scrutinizes it, and since Parliament is a public institution, we think that our voices there, so we send our issues to them. Those days we would meet them, but of course because of the COVID whatever, now we share it with Parliament. So we shared our insights with Parliament, our observations with Parliament, and the main observation is we thought it would be more COVID responsive, but we think it hasn't been to the magnitude we thought. Of course, we know that there are those priorities, and of course when you look at when you look at the structure of its responsiveness to COVID, you realize that the previous what I would call sectors, the programs that were getting bigger chunks have still continued to get bigger chunks. Look at governance and security, look at transport, look at interest payments. I mean, those are the things that are, and so nothing has changed much as within those we need to interrogate further how do they directly respond. But we thought that COVID response would be it would be clearly.
Well, Julie Akello, she is a budget specialist there in terms of policy, and we want to thank you so much for bringing light to what you are doing as civil society advocacy group and the inclusion of the wananchi in the process, because at the end of the day, much as it goes up and it's decided by the parliament and the, budget finance ministry, it still trickles down because the service is going to still be delivered to me and to you. So you must be inclusive in everything that happens on the national level of Uganda. Bring it to a conclusion, she did mention that it should have, the expectation was that it should have been more COVID responsive, but in defense I believe that this budget had been worked on or started on before COVID-19 really emerged as a big case in Uganda. And so with that in consideration, I'm sure that there will be some reallocation and rebudgeting as this financial year continues. This is Good Morning Uganda. Thank you so much for having been with us, and we believe that you have been more informed about budgeting and funding as far as the next 5 years are concerned. This is just a sneak peek into the year 2020-21 financial year. The framework is out and it's available. If someone wants to get a look at the work that you're doing, where can they find you? Do you have social media platforms, website?
To our website. Our website.
What's the website?
It is www.csbank.org.
Okay. And if someone wants to reach out to you, address, phone calls?
Phone, I haven't picked it clearly, but our website is interactive, and so someone can always punch in and then there's response.
Okay, well, it is still Good Morning Uganda. Now we get to have sports update coming in from Ruben Pima Chibilango.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.